I'd like to call this meeting of City Council to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gregg.
Here.
Councilmember Shealy.
Here.
Councilmember McBride.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Brady.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Seekins. Councilmember Tinkler. Councilmember Bowden.
Here.
Councilmember Appel. Councilmember Parker. Mayor Cogswell.
Here. I'd now like to call on Councilmember Gregg to give the invocation and lead everybody in the pledge.
Let us pray. Lord, thank you for this day. I thank you for the beauty of your creation and the privilege to live in this wonderful city. Lord, your scriptures tell us that we are made in your image, and in recognition of that truth, I pray that we might see our fellow men and women in that light, and that we'd see that they are worthy and deserving of respect and Christian love. Please help us to be kinder to one another. Help us to love you and serve you better today than we did yesterday. In your name I pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'd now like to call on the Greeks to come up. Dean of Moses, Reverend Aristotle Damascus, also known as Father Ari, if y'all would all join me up on the dais. Absolutely. Glad to do it. Come on up, come on up, come on up. Absolutely. Glad to do it. Good to see you. Good to see you. Very good to see you. Good to see you.
I'm John Cunningham to my wife's the Grand Banquet Chair of the Greek Orthodox Convention we're having here in June.
Okay.
And you sent a letter. We sent a letter. You couldn't make it.
Okay.
Could you send a letter?
Sure.
On June 12th. That's
Absolutely. 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 Come on up. Come on up.
Your Honor.
Flags and everything. I like it. Whereas Greece, the birthplace of Western civilization, with its concepts of democracy and individual freedom, has given the world the heritage of her achievements in science, philosophy, architecture, and art. And whereas on March 25th, 1821, after nearly 4 centuries of enslavement, the Greek people declared their independence and freedom. And whereas this declaration inspired and moved people in Europe and in the United States to compassionate expressions of support. And whereas since then, the people of Greece have demonstrated their love for freedom with immeasurable sacrifices and are, this year, celebrating the 204th anniversary of their independence. And whereas the proud daughters and sons of Greece, who are residents and citizens of this country and the city of Charleston, have inspired us with their independence, their gifts of good citizenship, and their leadership. And whereas I urge all citizens to join in appropriate observance of this day, now therefore I, William S. Cogswell, Mayor of the City of Charleston, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 as Greek Independence Day.
Your Honor, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be here in your presence and with the august members of the City Council. And we thank you for always remembering our heritage, our Greek Independence Day, as it is a very important part of our lives as we live as Orthodox Christians here in the city of Charleston. Sometimes we are few, but we are many. And we hope and pray that we can continue to have this wonderful relationship and dialogue in the years to come. And I have to put a plug in. Don't forget to come to the Greek Festival on Mother's Day weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry? Absolutely, they can sing the national anthem. All right. We have one more proclamation for a very special person, a longtime employee of the city of Charleston, Mrs. Von Esther Milford. Would you please join us, and anyone else you'd like to have up here on stage with us? I didn't bring flowers. You better bring your. Come on up. Come on. Get on up here. Never, I mean, you're not shy though. Whereas Von Esther Milford began her career with the city of Charleston on October 9th, 1979, in a custodial position where she played an essential role in maintaining our city's park houses. And whereas thanks to her hard work and dedication, she earned a promotion to supervisor in October 1987, and then became a crew leader in September 1997, setting a standard of excellence in facility care. And whereas for 45 years, Von Esther Milford has taken immense pride in keeping both our historic and modern city buildings in pristine condition. And whereas she has consistently demonstrated dependability and commitment, always willing to step in wherever needed, earning the admiration and respect of colleagues, city officials, and community members. And whereas in October 2021, Von Esther Milford was recognized with a CSI award after a visitor to Charleston described her as an incredible ambassador for our city. And whereas her favorite building in the city, St. Julian Divine, stands as a symbol of the rich history she has helped preserve through her years of dedicated service. And whereas the city of Charleston and its residents are deeply grateful for her hard work, commitment, and the lasting impact she has made on our community. Now, therefore, I, William S. Cogswell, Jr., Mayor of the City of Charleston, do hereby proclaim March 25th, 2025 as Von Esther Milford Day. Councilman Gregory over there nodding his approval. So we got it then.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. There are 9 public hearings tonight. Again, Christopher Morgan with the city will present first. Madam Clerk, how many people have signed up or would like to speak?
We have 9 people.
We have 9 people, so we'll give a minute and a half per person. I will ask that all speakers adhere to the rules of decorum. That means be polite. Do not direct your attention or questions and answers directly to council members. You are here to be heard on on these issues, and we just ask for you to be respectful. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Morgan and go from there.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Okay, this is number 1, which is at 15 Radcliffe Street. It's approximately 0.04 of an acre, and it is a request to rezone from DR2 to general business. And you see the image here of where the property is. It's the small property. Oops, that jumped. It's the small property outlined in black there on Radcliffe Street in the midst of the larger block there between King and St. Philip Street. There's an aerial image. There was a house on the property. That house was moved over to St. Philip Street since that aerial image was taken, and it's now a vacant lot. And here you see our comprehensive plan that shows that this site would be in our city centers. That is the area that is recommended for the most intense types of uses in the city. And it was reviewed by Planning Commission and recommended for approval by 7-0 vote. Then adjacent to this one, over on St. Philip Street at 120 St. Philip Street is what was a vacant lot. It's now the lot that that house sits on that was moved from Radcliffe. And that is a request to take that from general business, which is a more intense district at present on that site, and take it down to diverse residential DR1. And that would be essentially a downzoning of that property. And it's a larger piece of property. It's 0.08 of an acre. So about twice the size of the one over on Radcliffe Street. And we have an aerial image. Again, this is showing it vacant. Then the house was moved onto it that's being renovated. And then it's also in our city centers in our comprehensive plan. And Planning Commission also recommended this by 7-0 for approval. Then we go on to 2 comprehensive plan amendments that have been duly advertised as we are required to for public hearings. These have also, of course, been to the Planning Commission. The first one is for an accommodations tax, allowing our accommodations tax to help fund affordable housing. And this is a new provision in State Senate Bill S2384 that allows for this, known as Act 57, which allows for accommodations taxes to support local workforce housing. You have to go through some hoops on this, put together this report that's included in your packages, and then have this amendment to the comprehensive plan. And there's been going through that process. Planning Commission recommended this change 6-0. I do have some other slides on this that I can go over in more detail if you all have questions, but I won't go into those unless you all have those questions. Essentially this is about how the bill works and what is required in the report. And then you all have the reports in your packages. This would allow up to $2 million a year as based on our estimates that could be used from accommodations taxes for affordable housing. Then the second comprehensive plan amendment is to create an urban waterfront district in our land use district categories. And this would relate to the site that most people refer to as Union Pier. At present, this site is recommended in the plan. Oops, we got an earlier one. I'm going to zip through these. At present, it's in a plan that is recommended for future planning area. And I think we've got a description here. And the future planning area was designed to set out that there was not a definite land use recommendation for the site, but it would be subject to further public planning activities before any development approvals would occur. And during the previous discussions of Union Pier's redevelopment, I think there was a lot of concern from the community that there needed to be more of a definitive land use recommendation in the comprehensive plan. And so that's why this one has been developed. And the future land use recommendations are these things here, such as city centers, such as neighborhood, things like that, that describe different types of land uses throughout the city. And this would be added to our comprehensive plan. And this has been through some committee review and through planning commission. And essentially what is in this paragraph, it's a fairly lengthy paragraph, is kind of that vision for Union Pier and its redevelopment. And I think you all have copies of this in front of you, so I won't pain you with my reading through all this, but it envisions a real mixed-use center on the waterfront that reflects the character of Charleston. And I think that has received strong endorsement from our planning commission. And that's just a reference to future planning area. And here's the map amendment that would be part of this. On the left, you see in the future land use map, it shows it as the future planning area. And on the right, it would be amended to be this urban waterfront district. And here's a zoom in of that map. It's most adjacent to city centers that wrap it. That's the kind of brownish color. And then neighborhood, which is the Ansonboro area, is in that tan color. So those are the most nearby future land use recommendations in this plan. And again, this was recommended unanimously by Planning Commission for approval. And here, these were just some earlier drafts. And I'm going to go ahead and go into the zonings for the recent annexations, go through these very quickly. First, we have 1738 Three Oaks Avenue. This is coming in the city. It was a residential office in the county and would come in as RO into the city. And here's the location. It's a house that's been converted to an office. There's a law office there. And here's an image of the property. And then we have 1609 Poinsettia Road. It would come in as SR1. It was zoned R4 in Charleston County. Again, SR1 is our closest compatible district to that. And there's the image of the property there and what's on the site at present. And then we have 2167 Pinehurst Avenue, which would also come in as SR1 from R4 in Charleston County. There's an image of the property and a picture of the property from the street. And then finally, 2463 Birkenhead Drive, also SR1, was R4 in the county. And there's the property. There's the image from the street. And then 1931 Capri Drive, it's R4 in the county, SR1 coming into the city. And there's the image of that. And there's the street view. And those are all the public hearings we have today.
Just a procedural question, if I may.
Councilman Gregory?
Yes, I think that many of the people that are in here probably want to talk about item 1. And I think you said you only had 9 people for the public hearing. And I'm sure that there are more than 9 people in here that want to comment. Is it possible for us to allow folks that did not sign up to have the opportunity to speak?
Yes, because they're public hearings.
Thank you.
Well, to that point, if we could get a show of hands, people in the audience who are here to speak on item number 1. Looks like about 9. Okay, so we'll keep it at a minute and a half. I just wanted to make sure if it was more than that, we might limit the time, but we'll keep it at a minute and a half. And Madam
Okay.
Clerk, would you call the first speaker?
All right, we will start with a sign-up sheet, and if there's anyone else who needs to speak, we will go to you after that. Anthony Bryant?
Gotta get the name straight. Let's say it for the name, my minute 50. Anthony Gerard Bryant, not Anthony Gerald Bryant. Now, before you, all the zonings has been Anthony G. Bryant. It's Anthony Gerard Bryant. And the king in the law, I was born Catholic. My mom, daddy, my deceased uncle named me Anthony Gerard Bryant. Under Canaan, whoever's Canaan will know what that means. But if you're an error regarding that, the state can take your name and refer it to the feds or the state. For example, South State Bank closed my accounts in Orangeburg County. My bank account was on Broad Street, West Ashley, not there. So therefore, what happened was with my name, right, that could be referred to the Orangeburg County Sheriff, SLED, and the FBI, U.S. Attorney's Office because of banking issues. Okay, been in the game a long time, right? So I make a ton of public comments with my name, Anthony Gerard Bryant, not Anthony G. Bryant, not Gerald, Gerard. Right? So therefore, my reputation has been benign in Orangeburg. I don't live in Orangeburg. I live downtown. Right? So therefore, when you come downtown looking for Anthony Gerard Bryant, it's going to be a serious problem. I don't run from nothing. Have a nice evening. Hey, take this letters here. Give it to the mayor. It's Gerard. Give it to the governor, Tim Scott, and everybody else. It's Gerard under Canaan.
Muhammad Idris.
Evening. I have a paper here that's saying 14 words, and it's from a racist group. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. Then another 14 word is called the beauty of the white Aryan woman must not be pressured from this earth. Now this 14 words slogan is a group of people who follow Hitler. And this 14 is very significant for this community here because our mayor was born on 1/14/1975. So he was born on the 14th, and his action fits with this group. Thank you.
The first name I believe is Julia or Julie. Last name is it Skinner?
Thank you for letting me speak this evening. First of all, I just want to go over a couple quick things. Crime in our neighborhood in Radcliffe Borough. This young lady was sexually assaulted not too far from my home. As you can see, it's broad daylight. This is not a parking garage crime, but it's relevant to the crime in our neighborhood. Just want to point it out. I have text messages from between me and the detective when they contacted me for footage from my videotapes. The next text messages are from a neighbor whose home was robbed while they slept. My nephew was mugged across the street from St. Patrick's Church. Another quick point before I make my actual statement. This is parking on a Sunday outside of the two churches, the Baptist Church and the Catholic Church. The streets are empty. This was taken 2 weekends ago at 7:42 in the morning. This is parking garage crimes. It's a quick Google search. This is a fraction of them. Okay. I address you tonight not only as a concerned resident and a small business owner in Radcliffe Borough, but as someone who believes in the fundamental responsibility of elected officials to serve the interests of their constituents. The decision before you to rezone 15 Radcliffe Street and 120 St. Philip Street to accommodate a massive parking garage represents the profound failure of that duty. This is not merely a zoning issue. Sorry, I'm a terrible public speaker. It is a direct threat to the safety, quality of life, and well-being of the very people who entrusted you with their votes. This matter has been contentious for over a decade. And yes, here we are.
Time.
Discussing rezoning 2 lots, a step that should have been addressed long before the project ever moved forward. It is troubling that an experienced developer chose not to pursue the necessary rezoning before relocating this historic home, one that was built by an African-American religious
Time.
Reverend and his legacy have been erased. The original presence and value of have been conveniently pushed out of the way for a parking garage.
Ma'am, your time has expired.
Just a reminder that you are limited to 1.5 minutes speaking. I just want to remind people of that. So, thank you.
The next speaker, the first name, I believe it is Sally. Allie, sorry. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening. Less than 10 years ago, we were in this very same room discussing the same issue, 15 Radcliffe Street, and its conversion to general business and its future use as a parking garage. It was soundly defeated at that time, as it should be this time. The residential edges of our neighborhood do not need to be commercialized. They need to remain residential and they need to be used for housing. Thank you.
Elizabeth Bernard.
Hi, everybody. Liz Soul Brainerd. I'm the president of Radcliffe Borough Neighborhood Association. And I want everybody to understand that we are very supportive of the businesses in our neighborhood. We want to see continued growth of those businesses via housing that workers can live in. And that's why we think that a comprehensive plan that addresses attainable housing on that site is both consistent with the plan and better for the businesses and the residents of Radcliffe Borough. I know Julie mentioned she's a small business owner. Sally is long-term resident. We don't feel like a parking garage in our neighborhood is necessary. We have increased Carter service. We have Low Country Low Line coming on board, rapid transit. This is a long-term, short-term problem. And, we don't really need a behemoth 500 square parking garage in our neighborhood. That's a very long-term solution to a short-term plan. Thanks.
Brian Turner. Randall Grusing.
Mr. Mayor, I think some of the people are getting confused with the citizen participation area and this, what we're doing now. I think they're confused, so that's why we got to kind of clarify if you can.
Well, I did ask whoever is here to speak on behalf of Radcliffe Borough, but
Yep.
in terms of all public comment, in terms of any of those items that were addressed by Mr. Morgan, this is the time to speak on those items. It doesn't necessarily go in order by a particular subject matter.
Go
My
ahead.
name is Randall Grusing, and I've lived in Radcliffe Borough for 29 years. Today's meeting is in regards to a piece of property at 15 Radcliffe, which until a couple of years ago was occupied by a single-family home built 115 years ago. It was bar protected and occupied when I moved here. I couldn't help but note that during the last zoning meeting, one of the board members informed concerned citizens that we had to realize that we were living in a mixed-use urban environment and businesses would be beside residences in certain areas. He may not have understood that we live and use our neighborhood every day and experience its pros and cons. We know where we live. We chose it. We merely expect our city officials to protect the quality of life within our neighborhoods from outside developers. A note, the current owner, upon acquiring the residence with his project in mind, cut all the surrounding vegetation, including one of the largest catawba trees in Charleston, and paved up to its walls to create more parking for his parking lot. But that attempt to visually isolate it made it all the easier to complain about now that it's out of its place. The bar allowed him to move the house, inserting it between student housing complex, a student rental, and a parking garage entrance. In the last zoning meeting, the architect stated that the house's new location now left too few parking spaces for their student housing structure, so they would have to rezone the house property to allow them to pave over the previous home's floor plan. No one is oblivious to what is going on here. Mr. Brumley has for years wanted to drop a 5-story parking monolith into an area of 2- and 3-story houses and businesses. And he's
Time.
been willing to create problems and then offer solutions to get what he wants in spite of the concerns of the residents of the surrounding area.
Brian Turner.
Members of Council, Mr. Mayor, my name is Brian Turner. I'm President and CEO of the Preservation Society of Charleston. I want to speak in support of items 3 and 4, the amendments to the comprehensive plan. Number 3, the housing element, the inclusion of it in the plan, I think is critically important to allocate these dollars to workforce housing. It's a central concern of ours. Preservation is about people. And we want to keep people in place. I wanted to draw council's attention to page 17, stating that rehabilitation programs that preserve existing buildings and allow legacy residents to remain in their homes not only combat gentrification, but also creates generational wealth. So I encourage you all to look into rehabilitation programs as a means to preserve our fabric, reduce waste, and keep people in place. Second, I want to speak to the Union Pier, the Urban Waterfront District Amendment. We strongly support this, as we have. A lot of people care about this issue. I think it's really important that the city set a vision, and we've said this for years now. Setting a vision for growth, especially in one of its most desirable areas, is good planning, and good planning is good for good growth. This text really emphasizes the public benefits of the development, access, inclusivity, a civic orientation that's compatible in scale and height with our neighborhoods. And I think you've all heard how important this is. Lastly, I think the language allows for good flexibility to allow for a robust design process with a lot of creative thinking that we look forward to being a part of. So thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Frank Brumley.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read this quickly and for the sake of time. My name's Frank Brumley, and I've lived in Charleston for more than 50 years, and my office is right across the street at 67 Broad. These two properties, 15 Radcliffe and 120 St. Philip, are part of Warren Place, a student housing project that I built 30 years ago and is leased to the College of Charleston. In the center of this complex is a 120-car parking lot. I would propose to build a 360-car parking garage on that site. We've been very transparent in regarding these plans and have received encouragement to do so from many in the community. I feel virtually everyone will agree that we have a parking problem on the peninsula. These properties that we are asking you to rezone are part of the central business district of the city. There's no more appropriate place in the city for a parking garage. In addition to pulling cars out of the residential neighborhood, the garage will serve the churches that are desperate for parking. Letters of support have been received from St. Patrick Catholic Church and Central Baptist Church, both right across on Radcliffe Street. In addition to serving the churches, the garage would provide parking for the College of Charleston and the many businesses on King Street. We met with the City Planning and Zoning Commission and received a unanimous vote, 8-0 in favor of the requested rezoning. We've contacted the Preservation Society and Historic Charleston Foundation. And
Time.
they are not opposed to the rezoning. Thank you for your consideration.
Joe Schmidt.
I am the would-be architect for the garage, but that's not what I'm here to speak. I'm here to speak as a citizen. I was born and raised here 70 years ago in Charleston, South Carolina. My first residence that my father built was in South Windermere. And to give you an idea of how Charleston's changed, he bought an iron rake to knock down the furrows. It was a field the year before he bought it in 1954. My wife and I both met at the rice mill. That's where we got two different businesses. I formed the business of Evans and Schmidt in 1984, and our first place of business was at the King and Ann Street, which was the National Trust building. We were in the ballroom of a building that nobody wanted to occupy that block. There was no air conditioning. We worked there, and so I spent many, many years there. When I was in high school, I spent 8 years in the Bishop England Band from elementary up. Every year of that, band practice was in St. Patrick's School on the upper floor because they didn't have a full enough school to occupy, so they let us use it. My point of this is I have been integral with this community. The last thing I want to do is be part of a project that I feel like harms that community. The only time I ever left Charleston in practice was to go to do the governor's mansion in Columbia from my
Time.
6-year stint at Clemson. Very, very interested in being a good steward of architecture in this community.
Was there anyone else who needed to speak to any of the public hearings that was not on the list? Yes, sir. And if we could get your name as well.
James Doyle. I'm the Vice President of Radcliffe Borough Neighborhood Association. The Neighborhood Association does not support the rezoning, which is a precursor to the parking garage. 2 quick points. We do not feel that it is appropriate for a parking garage which caters to the entertainment district to be placed next to a dorm full of, what, 200 young ladies? Second point, and this is personal, I do not subscribe to the mantra that you hear over and over, we need more parking. King Street is chock full of people. Try to make a reservation. It's chock full of people. We don't need more people on King Street. If you build that garage, you'll put 400 cars in it, 360 cars, and there'll be 360 cars to take its place. Thank you.
Was there anyone else who needed to speak? Yes, ma'am. And if we could get your name as well.
Absolutely. Good evening. My name's Diamond Furry with the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to speak really quickly in support of items 3 and 4. Obviously, workforce housing is a huge need for our community, so thank you all for working on this and taking advantage of the law passed at the state level. And of course, with Union Pier, we're just excited to see more progress be made, and we think that this land use district implementation will sort of help guide what can happen on that site. So thank you.
Was there anyone else who needed to speak on the public hearings? If not, we did receive one letter from the Historic Charleston Foundation in support of the Urban Waterfront Future Land Use District. And those were all of the comments that we received.
All right. Any comments, questions from members of council regarding any of these items?
Maybe I'll start it off. Go ahead.
Councilman Gregory. This is comment on anything.
Yes, I'm commenting on item 1. If you build it, they'll come. To me, it's just that simple. I agree that the churches in that neighborhood parking issues need to be addressed. And I think as a city, we need to come up with a creative way to address it. I think one way that we could address it is that the parking spaces in that community on Sundays can be, I don't know, be designated for church parking only during the period the churches are in session. I don't know whether or not that is something that we can do, but I do think that it might be, give the ability to address the problems that the churches have. The churches will need parking 4 days out of 30 days. That's on Sundays. And before council considers a vote on this issue, I have a number of questions. My first question is, who wants a garage in their neighborhood? My second question is, who spoke with the representatives of the peninsula on this issue? And right now, I'm putting these questions to my colleagues. Who wants increased traffic in their neighborhood? Who wants the livability of their neighborhoods affected? I think these are some basic questions that as council members, we need to consider, particularly the one dealing with who which council members who may vote nay have spoken to any of the peninsula representatives, and more specifically, the representative who represents District 4. To me, as council members, I think we owe each other, at a minimum, to discuss issues that might be controversial in any of our districts. I know I would if someone was to build something, let's say on Daniel Island, for instance, that Greg may oppose. I think I have a responsibility as his colleague to talk with him, first of all, about his position and determine whether or not I can or cannot support his position. That has not happened in this case. And I think that it should have happened because we're talking about an upzoning. It's an upzoning from residential to GB. Not only that, it's going to have an effect on the neighborhood. Cumming Street and St. Philip Street are corridors that accommodate right now probably at least 6,000 or 7,000 cars a day. Build and they will come. And I'm talking about the garage. I adamantly oppose having a garage in that community. This has nothing to do with an upcoming election either. Because regardless of an upcoming election, my position will continue to be what's best for my constituents. While the garage is not in my district also houses a part of Radcliffe Borough, which will be affected by this garage. So my position is very clear to my constituents and everyone in this room. Who wants a garage in their neighborhood? Okay? Who spoke with the representatives of the peninsula at a minimum to get our position before we take a vote? And I'm here to say, I've only spoken to 4 members of this council on this issue. 3 of us on the peninsula, we're all in tandem on this one. I've spoken to my colleague. We're generally on the same page. This one, we're not. So to me, if the answer to my questions by my colleagues is no to any of my questions that I raised, I think your answer to this garage should also be no. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I entertain a motion on this since we seem to be talking about number 1?
Not yet, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion to approve. We're going to get to discussion. I just want to get a motion on the floor since we're talking about one specific item here. We have a motion to approve. Second. Now, Councilman Mitchell.
Okay, my colleagues on council, this is an area that I represent. No one of my colleagues have ever contacted me on this to discuss this with me, except Councilman Gregory, because we are in the peninsula working together. I spoke to Mr. Brumley on the telephone pertaining to this, and I don't hide my vote. I told him I could not support this as it is. I said if it was housing, I would probably go to the neighborhood association and the neighbor and rally for housing. And I told him this on the phone, he can attest to this. But I cannot vote for garage coming in the community. I mean, a lot of people say they've been here this year, this been here this many years. I've been here 76 years. Right, wrong in these areas. Mara Street, St. Philip Street, all over. Family living right there on St. Philip Street, right down the street from where this building was. So I know the area very, very well. I ran up and down these streets, but I just don't see it putting a garage there. I just don't see it. It's just, we talk about bringing traffic into the community, bringing all the problems that we have in the community already, in the city already, into the community, the live noises and stuff. Any one of you all wouldn't want the garage next to your house or close to your proximity to your house. They talk about the parking for the churches. Come down to my church, Mount Zion AME Church on Glebe Street. Do we have a parking? We don't have any parking on Glebe Street at all. We don't have it on George Street at all. We go to the garage, we have to walk. But we don't have a garage right there next on Glebe Street. You're not going to put one on Glebe Street, not on George Street there. You're not going to put one there, you know. And we've been there since 142 years, right in that same building. And I think Councilman Seekins passed me every Sunday when he see my car on George Street, every Sunday, because I'm there every Sunday because I sing in the choir. So I'm very familiar with this area. And I could not see myself voting to put a garage in that community. I will not. And I look at my colleagues, this is an area that I represent. The late Mr. Robert Ballard, if he was here, he would have been calling me every day. He'd say, hey, Robert, hey, Councilman Mitchell, what's going on? We were good friends. I don't attend the neighborhood association like I should because I have another neighborhood association meeting going the same time, but they'll tell you, and Mr. Mayor can attest to this, I attend most of all of my neighborhood association meetings. That's one thing about me. I'm a community person, period. It's all about community with me. I live on King Street. 40 years, right on King Street. I have a lot of different bars and stuff 2 blocks, 3 blocks away from my house. I put up with that. In my yard, right now today, it takes me sometimes 10 minutes to even get out of my yard to get in on the King Street, to get out of my yard on King Street. So I know what the traffic is, and I know the problem we have with parking. But to put a parking garage right in the community, I just don't see it. Not that way. We need to find another way. And I told Mr. Brumley, I said, if you talk about housing, and I know he did a lot of good job with housing on Daniels Island, way back when I used to represent Daniels Island. That was back in 1998. So I understand that. And I said I would push forward if it was come with affordable housing. Affordable housing is something that we need here also. We need housing for the people that's living in this city already. We are pushing all these people out of the city. We need housing to keep them here and let them live where they work. These are the things that we need to look into. We talk about building a garage to bring more people in. We got a lot of people in here now that we need to support right now what we have now today. So these are the kind of things that I'm looking at, and I look at a global sense when I'm looking at things, and I look at community when I'm looking at things. I'm very community-minded. It's all about community with me. Nothing big about me at all. It's community. So I've told Mr. Brumley I cannot support it, and he'll tell you that. Right on the phone, I said, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. So I'm asking my colleagues to do the same. I represent this area, and they know I'm very adamant on my district. I don't play around, because I'm out there. I said, who on this council is out in the community 1 and 2 o'clock or 1 and 1:30 in the morning? I'm out there 1 and 1:30 in the morning because I'm all about my community. I'm all about the community, the city of Charleston. I'm adamant about that. I grew up here. I'm adamant about trying to make the city the best city there is to be. And that's all it's about me. Make it the best, that we come and work together. We keep a diverse community, a diverse city of Charleston. But by doing this, it needs more affordable housing, period. Thank you.
We could hold the clapping. Anyone else like to speak on this?
I'm sure my colleague to the right is going to speak. I see his notes, and usually I like to listen to him and speak, but I may reserve a second bite of this apple. All right, so, Councilmember Mitchell, Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Seekings. We represent the peninsula. We're the only representatives on the council who represents the peninsula. The mayor lives on the peninsula. I represent I represent the south end of Radcliffe Borough. I call it the Riviera of Radcliffe Borough. Right down there. There's nowhere to park, right? When you're down there, there's nowhere to park. And I would certainly adopt the comments of the people who came here tonight who live in the neighborhood, particularly Ms. Ballard, who's been a part of this conversation. And it's been a conversation for at least 15 years, because that's how long I've sat on this council, and her husband, Robert, was on it every day. We've already gone through this, by the way, fellow council members. We've gone through this debate a decade ago. It was not close. The final vote, I believe, was unanimous that this is not the appropriate place to be building a large parking garage. Now, we hear and we read a lot about how parking is so difficult downtown, and the people who live downtown are overrun by people who are parking in their neighborhoods. They're taking their parking spaces. You can't do it. I would point out to the people sitting in this chamber tonight, not a single person who lives downtown, not a single person who lives downtown, or by the way, has a business downtown, save Mr. Brumley, who's on Broad Street, came and spoke in support of building a parking garage at the corner of Radcliffe and St. Philip Street. Not one. Zero. Not a business, not people who live in those neighborhoods. Nobody. Nobody. And why? Because it's not the appropriate place for it. It just isn't. Look, this is a massive upzoning. We're going from residential to the most dense zoning we can have, commercial. It's a very, very small lot. So people are like, well, so what? It's just a little small lot. Well, what if it was 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 acres? Will we be just upzoning it from residential to commercial without really thinking about the long-term consequences? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we need to be much more thoughtful about this. When it comes to zoning, and it took me a long time to learn this as a city council member, after public safety, zoning is the one thing that this body controls that no one else can touch. And it shapes the future of our city. And upzoning is something we do very rarely. And when we do it for a specific purpose, and that's to benefit the people who live in the area that we do it. So until I hear my constituency and my fellow council members who live in that district say we need to have a parking garage here, I don't see it. And when it comes to, again, zoning and votes like this, we pick winners and losers. And in an upzoning here, we're going to pick one winner against an entire community of people who've come out and said, don't do this. Don't do this. And it's not knee-jerk reaction. They've been thinking about this for over a decade, Now, I know what's coming. So just to say this, if one of the concerns is parking for people who come in and out of the community at certain times, particularly on church Sundays, I would point out, and Mr. Brumley said one of the things he wanted to do was support the churches in the area. I would point out that this is not going from 0 to 350 in terms of parking. There's already a surface parking lot there that I think we heard tonight houses 150 cars. On a Sunday, I'm certain there are some spaces available on that surface lot for the churches that are in the neighborhood. Quite certain of it. So look, this one to me, fellow council members, is just a no-brainer. This is a massive upzoning for which no one who lives in that area has come and asked us to do it. Nobody. And the people on the peninsula who represent those who live there, all 30,000 of them are represented by 1, 2, 3 people right here. And we're asking you to vote no on this one. If a parking garage is that essential, then go figure it out in the zoning that's already there. Is really this one little lot that's just a few hundred square feet that important? I'm sure y'all can figure out why it is, but hasn't been presented to us tonight. So I'm going to join my fellow colleagues on the peninsula in voting no on this one. I did talk to Mr. Brumley today. I was hoping this would get resolved in advance of us being here tonight, but it didn't. So our job is to raise our hands, yay or nay. And on this one, in this neighborhood, for this project, in 2025, in 2015, in 2005, all the years we've been debating it. There's just not been a compelling case made to me, I think to anybody around here, that this is time to build a 350 car parking. So I would encourage everybody to really think about this vote. It's a small lot, but it's a big vote.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate every word my colleagues have said. I think the city of Charleston has over 20 parking garages, and they were built in somebody's neighborhood. We've built garages next to hotels to accommodate business, primarily. And we've built garages in communities to accommodate business, the community, the College of Charleston, and the religious community. And you say, well, what is he talking about? I would bring up an example of the Queen Street Parking Garage, which is about not quite a block off of King Street. It's at the back of St. John's the Baptist Catholic Cathedral downtown, which fronts Broad Street. When they have PTA meetings and the like at Charleston Day School, it's less than a block. They don't have parking there. They actually walk around the corner, park in the garage, and attend children's events, whatever events they're having at the school. The Wentworth Street Parking Garage, again, isn't on King Street. It's about a block or so off of King Street. It serves the business community. It serves the College of Charleston. I've actually parked in Wentworth Street Parking Garage and gone and attend events, funerals, the like, at Grace Episcopal. I've also parked in the Wentworth Street Parking Garage and actually visited your church, Councilmember Mitchell. It also serves the College of Charleston and the religious community. So multiple facets of our community. And then we have the three-way partnership between the City of Charleston, the College of Charleston, and a private developer that built the George Street Parking Garage. It also serves the College of Charleston, the business community, the religious community, and takes pressure off of parking in Charleston Village. I've also parked, and I know I'm not alone, in the George Street Park Garage, walked a block and a half, and attended Council Mitchell's church, which does not have parking on Glebe Street. He's right. But for the parking garages, it relieves some of the stress off of, again, parking, having to park in Halston Village in the surrounding areas to attend church at both Mount Zion AME and Grace Episcopal. This has been in front of us before. And while I hear the 30+ thousand people, and you all are absolutely right about that, there are over 120,000 people just in the city of Charleston that do not live on the peninsula. How are we accommodated? I can remember when during COVID, when everybody had the fear of being shut down and tourism dropped to nothing. One of the things Councilmember Appel came up with was offering free parking on King Street to try to get patrons, local patrons, to come and patronize our restaurant and hospitality community to try to keep them alive, keep them surviving until we got through the pandemic and health was restored to this country. And you know what? It worked. To have churches marginalized as just being on Sunday is frankly unjust. And I'll tell you why. People just don't die on Sunday. Funerals are held throughout the week. Churches have revivals. They just don't have that on Sunday. The church or churches are another part of our community, life breathing. They conduct business. They have deliveries as well. They have vacation Bible schools. They have Bible studies. All those events aren't held on Sunday. This has been a commercial lot for almost all I can think of. I'm 69. I'm not quite as old as Councilmember Mitchell. He's the senior man on this district. No, I respect him for that. That used to be the old Condon's parking lot. And when we have rain bombs and we have the king tides, of which we have approaching between 70 and 80 king tides a year in this town, I've actually seen this with my own eyes. The water hits that parking lot, it drains towards St. Philip Street, it goes across the sidewalk, and the intersection of St. Philip and Ratcliffe Streets are flooded until the tides recede, and it drains right off. It does. Stormwater retention wasn't required back then. It is now. That problem would be cured in addition to the parking stresses being cured on this. You talk about 10 years ago. In 2017, if you don't mind, I'm gonna ask a little help from my colleagues here and pass this article around. The parking district around there at least was like 1 hour parking and enforced 24 hours a day. In 2017, while people prayed in all 4 of those congregations, and they don't call in at 7:42 in the morning, okay? The large services are held around 10:30 in the morning, okay, on Sundays. Our parking, one of the solutions was start to go and write tickets and place them on people's cars while they worship. That's what this city did to the members of St. Patrick's, the members of Central, the members of Morris Brown AME, and the members of Morris Street Baptist Church. There used to be a time you had a plethora of parking, but as the neighborhoods grew, and it is a fine neighborhood to live in, and to try to disparage it with crime being higher is a disparity to disparages our men and women of our police force. They do a great job policing our cities. But sometimes I understand being against an issue. I do. But don't bring fear tactics of crime and homelessness to gain a victory. That's unfair to our community. It's unfair to the men and women of our police force. We have a professional police force. Over 95% of our police force has a college degree or better. We don't have a bully police force. We take pride in that force. You can gain a victory another way, but not that way. Don't fail people with crime. We got low crime on the peninsula. We're proud of it. Is it no crime? I don't know a community that has no crime. But that said, as a community, how do you accommodate people off of the peninsula? I mean, how you do it? If you ask people off the peninsula, why don't you go downtown more? Why don't you eat? Why don't you shop downtown? The number one reason is parking is a pain in the neck. And that's using kind words. So making it parochial, it's my district and only that. We all understand that. We all had things encroach on our districts. We've had funding taken from one area to accommodate another area because at the time it's the better thing to do. But the city has not come up with a solution on this. The city, again, enforced 1 hour parking districts and actually attempted to do that during funerals. Okay, now they didn't because they were approached to say, can you imagine going to a funeral at any one of those churches and coming out after a homegoing service of a loved one and finding a $45 ticket on your car in the holy city? So I think we've had some good pontification on this, but some of these things are facts, and the facts go both ways, against and for. But at some point in time, somebody has to speak up for those of us who enjoy this city, who do not live on the peninsula, being accommodated with our needs, religious and otherwise. So I appreciate everybody giving me a time to speak. And I yield my time back to this council. Thank you.
Councilman McBride.
Mr. Mayor, is it possible, I did communicate with both sides of this. I had a good dialogue with Mrs. Skinner back and forth. And one of the understandable concerns is the perception, it was brought up during the public comments, the perception of increased crime in parking garages and around parking garages. Is it possible for someone from Charleston Police to just come and talk to that, just lay out the facts about crime in and around parking garages in the city of Charleston?
Well, we happen to have the police chief here, so. So, Chief, I believe the question is, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I mean, is a parking deck something that attracts crime?
No, traditionally, and I say traditionally because I don't have data right here in front of me. Traditionally, most of the issues that we deal with on the peninsula is along the major corridors. That's where our businesses are located, not necessarily at parking garages. One of the footprints that we utilize at the Charleston Police Department is strategic placement of officers during those very busy times. And that's usually Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Those areas around parking garages are are highly patrolled and focused on for crime prevention. So without having the data in front of me, traditionally, we don't see a lot of activity like that around our parking garages. It's usually concentrated along the major corridors.
Can I answer your question? Okay.
And I do stress tradition because I don't have the data in front of me.
Do you have a question for the chief?
No, not for the chief.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, maybe the chief, I'm not sure, but it's transportation, really. Just as we got that data, because I'm not stressing that crime is the issue with respect to building a garage. I never said crime.
A few other speakers did. That's where I think the question.
Right, understand. But what is the effect of a 360-car garage traffic-wise? What effect would that have on the neighborhood? Given the current traffic patterns, because we want Dave, look like we're looking at the data now, okay? Given the traffic patterns on St. Philip and Cumming and King, okay, what would be the effect of a 360-car garage, okay, and with respect to the increase in traffic?
Are you asking the question?
I'm asking, we got all people
So
here that
I
can
guess
answer these questions.
we
I mean,
have head
based
of
on that.
D&T here. I guess the question is, does increasing parking
Would it
reduce traffic?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just the opposite.
What?
Will
Decreasing parking?
Yes, I didn't say parking, I'm talking traffic.
Right. So
Okay.
would increasing parking
Would
result in more traffic?
Right, concentrated traffic. If you build a garage of 360 parking spaces, okay, what effect would that have on traffic?
Well, of course, a traffic study would need to be done to determine the amount of traffic in that area, but yes, it is going to generate quite a bit of turnover with the parking garage.
Thank you.
And that would be required, a traffic study would be required for any sort of permit on a new structure.
And most of our traffic studies say minimal effect. Regardless.
Okay.
Most of them say minimal effect, but the people living in those communities see more than a minimal effect.
Okay,
I just have one quick comment. So,
Councilman Gregg.
just speaking from my personal experience, Councilman Gregory, like if you had a parking garage and you went one place, I mean, I've spent many hours probably in my life driving around St. Philip and Radcliffe Street trying to find a parking space. So having a designated place where you can go and you're sure to get a spot, you know, you may see reduced traffic because people aren't driving around the neighborhood trying to find parking spots. So just a thought.
Mr. Mayor. I have
Councilman
one.
Mitchell.
Yeah, one quick thing, Stick. I know we're talking about the garage, we're talking about the traffic, but my thing is always about the community. The people that's coming in that area do not live in that community. So we're looking at the community, the people that reside and live there and have to be there every day and deal with everything that's coming. So I understand about the businesses aspect and we need this coming in, but we have to remember the people that live in those communities. And we are forgetting about that. We're talking about so many other things, we're forgetting about the people that live there, that they have to put up with all this every day. So what are we talking about? You know, I understand all this craziness going on, but I'm looking at the residents that's live in that community, have strived in that community, have made that community the way it is. This is what we need to be listening to too. Okay, we put on a scale and balance it, but we listen to that community, the people that live in that community that would have to deal with it. I don't have to deal with it. None of my colleagues here have to deal with it. They're not going to be there. So these are the things we are looking at too, and you know, I don't understand it sometimes. I said, you know, well, like I said, only 3 on the peninsula, and now we have all this, and we have to see if our colleagues would go along with this, but you need to look at it too. My colleagues on the outside of the west of Dash, you need to look at this too. You don't live there. People come here and they go home. They come in, bring everything in, and they go home. They're not there on the peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, I had very good conversations with both the applicant and those that are opposed to it. And as Councilman Waring pointed out, facts go both ways, right? And they're very compelling arguments and understandable arguments on both sides. Where I come down on it is I do think we need parking, just generally speaking. I get plenty of commentary about how much we need parking, particularly on the peninsula, from businesses, from residents alike. Now, of course, to the residents of Radcliffe Borough, nobody wants it in their neighborhood, and I respect that. But that doesn't negate the fact that we do need parking. Every study that we have on the peninsula says we need parking. And when we talk about how long of a process this has been, and this has been going on for quite some time, this was debated, as mentioned, 15 years ago. My big problem with changing course now, or I guess, is that during that time, the city went through a comprehensive plan, went through a peninsula plan that got very specific on what uses would be for properties. And it was strongly recommended through a lot of community input that this property, and we're talking about a rezoning, would be what the applicant's requesting, general business. And I suspect that those that even are opposed to this, and I understand where they're coming from, but probably voted for that comprehensive plan and for that peninsula plan. And so we also have our planning commission, which uses our comprehensive plan and our peninsula plan as their guiding force. When they looked at this application, they said, yes, this complies with what we said we wanted and what the community writ large said they wanted. So they voted 8-0. So here we are, and we're asking, do we still agree with that or not? And so, you know, for me, it's a hard decision to make, but I respect the planning and process that went into putting these things together and where our staff is coming from on this. And I understand the residents of Radcliffe Borough's frustration of not wanting to have something like that in their neighborhood. But that doesn't negate the fact that is needed and that this is what the city said they wanted. So that is why I'm supporting it. Councilman Rappel?
Thank y'all. It's been a while since we've kind of gone around the room and everyone talked about things. It's sort of having to dust it off a little bit. This is a good old fashioned tough zoning call because there really are compelling arguments and perspectives on all sides. And I think the reason for that is when you look at the image on the screen and you look to the left, there's a neighborhood, there's a community of people. And understandably, folks do not want to see change in their neighborhoods, especially when that change is in the form of a parking garage. I completely get that, completely sympathize with that. But when you look on the screen and you look to the right, what do you see? The most concentrated, intense hub of commercial activity in the state. It is the economic driver of the city, if not the region. You know, we don't have Boeing. We don't have Volvo. We don't have these big economic development initiatives that you see around the state. We don't have BMW. We've got King Street. And King Street is something that is important to everybody on this council, whether you represent the peninsula or not, because what happens on King Street, so goes King Street, goes Charleston. I've been in Charleston 40 years. It's not as much as some of my colleagues, although I'm starting to get a lot of gray hair. Used to be a little, now it's a lot. My grandpa, Joe Sokol, had the furniture store right around the corner, Morris Sokol Furniture. And I'll never forget one of the things that he used to advertise, because when I was growing up, you know, makes me sound old. When I was growing up, you know, nobody wanted to be up in this part of King Street. In fact, his ad that he would run on his TV ads and radio ads, the radio, remember that, would be Morris Sokol Furniture, well worth the trip downtown. Please, people, come downtown. I'm begging people to come downtown. People weren't coming downtown, certainly not that part of town, to do business. We want to attract people to come to King Street from all over the place to do business on King Street. That's how we support our economy. I have heard from a lot of businesses up and down King Street in support of this proposal. My colleague, Councilmember Waring, mentioned one of the things we did during COVID. We eliminated minimum parking requirements on King Street from Calhoun to Broad. Now, what that is that's a zoning reform that we initiated, which means when a new business wants to come onto King Street, they don't have to demonstrate the ability to provide parking on or off site. You can't do it on site because there is no on site. It's a building that essentially encompasses the entire tax map number. The fact that we were requiring applicants show parking made it much more difficult for new businesses to open, new businesses to expand on King Street. One of the reasons we identified that strip of King Street as being appropriate for this zoning reform was because of the prevalence of parking garages in that community. I remember our former TNT director, Keith Benjamin, had an image on screen. I remember looking at it where there were these concentric circles drawn in relation to all the parking garages on the peninsula. So the more of these garages we're able to site in and around King Street, the more we provide an opportunity for that type of regulatory reform to help our businesses thrive. But it's not just for businesses. I'm going to tie this into affordable housing. Ready? Here we go. One of the biggest drawbacks to building affordable housing is the ability to have parking. The more parking we can have on site as a resource makes it easier for affordable housing projects to come out of the ground without having to build parking, expensive parking that complicates these deals, cannibalizes precious land, and things of that nature. It's efficiency, right? You're putting more parking in a concentrated area, and it's going to help not only our business community, but also affordable housing initiatives that we have in the area. And so, listen, there's good arguments on all sides of this. I respect all of my colleagues on the peninsula. I respect the folks that came out here today to voice their opposition. But I just wanted to get some of those other perspectives on the table so we could talk about those as well. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
So we have a motion. Another point from Councilman Gregory.
React to some of the statements, yes. I don't ever want it to be west of the Ashley versus the peninsula. That's the last thing we need. We are one Charleston. One Charleston. The peninsula is the crown jewel of this state. If we continue the way we're going to look like every other city USA. And when you continue to build these garages in areas where we have our greatest assets, which are people, we're gonna start losing our charm and our uniqueness. And finally, okay, we are continually expanding, I think, the entertainment district. I think over time, once we continue to develop this city, King Street won't be the main corridor. West Ashley will have its own corridor and won't have to come over here for anything if we plan and do what is necessary to make that happen. And I think everybody on this council would agree to that. The peninsula is the crown jewel of the state. And when we continue on the path that I see, we're going to lose our charm and it's going to affect our economy because the charm will be dead and we'll look like every other city USA. Our greatest asset are the people of this city, not garages, not traffic. And if we don't protect them, we're not going to be the Charleston that my grandmother looked at. As we drove through this city when my grandmother was alive, she would say, "It sure looks pretty, but it doesn't look like my Charleston." So I think that we need to keep in mind that we're one Charleston. We're not West Ashley with 120,000 population, because I think eventually Daniel Island, once it's built out, okay? I mean, let's think futuristically, guys, okay? Once Daniel Island is built out, Daniel Island is going to be one of the most powerful components of this one Charleston. We cannot continue to think in this silo. We have to make sure that we maintain our uniqueness that attract the 8 million people to this city annually. And I don't think that we're protecting our greatest asset, and it's our people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Gregory. Councilman Tinkler, you wanted to say a few things?
I guess I'll point out I'm relatively new to this zoning process, so I'm still trying to figure out, and I apologize to the members for not reaching out. I guess I underestimated how big of an issue that this was going to end up being. My phone is always available, and I would always appreciate if y'all have concerns about something that's on the agenda, please reach out to me. The way I look at this, and I'm not here to defend parking garages, and I don't want to be known as the parking garage guy. Right. Listen, I don't want parking garages. Clearly, no one here wants parking garages. I would hope that one day we're driving, electric cars all the time, and we're not actually driving them, not needing parking garages. But as Councilmember Pell mentioned, I mean, we are in an extremely commercial district, and the way that I look at it is we're talking about zoning an extremely small parcel, and which is surrounded by general business. And I think we're preventing this project and preventing this development of a surface lot, which, as Councilman Waring has mentioned, has no stormwater infrastructure. This is an opportunity to develop something where by focusing on this small parcel, I feel like we're focusing on the wrong thing, and that is trying to develop this area properly with zoning. And my understanding is this is not going to be the last time the public is going to have a say on this. And and one thing that gives the city of Charleston its charm is the fact that we have pretty stringent rules and how this kind of stuff is built and the materials that are used and how it conforms to the neighborhood and the surrounding area. And there will be an opportunity for the public to weigh in on that aspect of this project. So, you know, I understand this is a very tough issue. I have a hard time getting in the way of something because of a small, differently zoned parcel.
If we're ready to take a vote on this, I would recommend a roll call vote. Well, we good for that?
Councilmember Gregg. Councilmember Shealy.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Brady. Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Seekings.
Nay.
Councilmember Tinkler.
Aye.
Councilmember Bowden.
Aye.
Councilmember Appel.
Aye.
Councilmember Parker is absent. Mayor Cogswell.
Aye.
Right, the motion carries.
Next item on the agenda, we have I'll entertain a motion. Sorry, let me look.
Sort of
Right
wishing
here.
we could have taken 1 and 2 together on that one. but-
Yeah.
Move for approval.
All right, a motion properly seconded. Any discussion on this item? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Moving down, we would like, can I get a motion maybe to take 3 and 4 together? Motion to take 3 and 4 together for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Where are we?
Move to take 5 through 9 together and for approval.
We have a motion to take 5 through 9 with approval together. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. All right, we are now on to approval of minutes. Motion made, probably seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. We're now on to citizens' participation. Madam Clerk, how many people do we have signed up to speak? Yep.
5 people signed up to speak.
We have 5 people signed up to speak. Since we've had a long meeting so far, I'm going to give everybody a minute.
Anthony Bryant.
30 seconds. Anthony Gerard Bryant. Facebook post basically states this. What it says is it's unhoused, mentally ill, and uninsured. Normally in this new Charleston, you get shot by the police. So the people who voted on that, in majority, they want to take Black people out, period. So the vote reflects the fact that they support the police and police brutality on Black people left in the peninsula, period. And that happened to me. So therefore, this is an arraignment hearing we had in North Charleston. Reggie Burgess is a friend of mine, but we play college football together, right? So you're gonna say that Anthony G. Brown is unhoused, mentally ill, and in Chicago, Indiana, and Dallas, Texas, of a nurse I don't even know. So that means that under CALEA, Commission Law Enforcement Agency, Inc., they could actually come in with a warrant, non-compliant warrant, and shoot me in my back of head. Have a nice day.
Mohammed Idris. All right. Karen Paulson.
Hello, Councilman, Mayor. I'm Karen Paulson, and I am formerly a Dockside resident. And the reason I wanted to come tonight is I wanted everyone to see that there is a face to over 200 people that were evacuated within 48 hours to find a place to live with just our belongings in our hands. It was the most humiliating experience I've ever had. And I look at some people have lived there for 35 years, some 25 years. For us, we bought a year ago. Thank you very much. But I guess my point is, I think that the city of Charleston needs to be more cognitive that these are people. And one of the gentlemen I talked to yesterday, just to check on him, John graduated from the Citadel. He was in the Air Force. And he said, I've been living in my car. I've been living in my car. And my husband, who is a Marine who fought in Vietnam, he's in a wheelchair and a walker. We had to carry our things out of this building, and we had 48 hours. But we were one of the lucky ones that actually had friends that were able to help us find a place. But there are other people that no furniture, nothing. And they are all renting and trying to like keep going here. But anyway, that was my point. I guess I just wanted everyone to understand that how horrible and humiliating and degrading this whole thing was within 48 hours. Just imagine, any one of you, 48
Time.
hours. Thank you.
Eric Paulson.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Eric Paulson. I am a resident of Charleston, proudly. And I am a combat Marine veteran. I am a disabled American, and I have recently joined the Cross the Rubicon to senior citizenship. And my wife and I have looked forward to the golden years. What has happened, I am a resident of Dockside, 330 Concord. What has happened at that facility, we all should be ashamed of in this city. The way the citizens of this town were treated. Many disabled, many senior citizens, many combat veterans or just veterans. It doesn't matter. 48 hours to get out, take only what you can carry, and fend for yourself. And my question is, what is the difference now that allowed the city to evacuate when a year and a half ago it decided not to evacuate because the engineering firm showed that the fire department and the other civil responders could safely encroach the building?
Time.
When in fact, the engineer's statement in the report states that there has been no demise of the building over the period of time. What's different? And did anybody ask that question? That's the question that needs to be asked. Many people just want their things. Most
Time.
people can't afford to get their things. Where are they going to put it? What are they going to do? I know I'm shut off. So, but most of the people, you know, they don't have the wherewithal to find another home, to buy another home. It's a shame, and it needs to be addressed.
Hunter Schwartz.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Hunter Schwartz, and I want to invite y'all to dinner at my house. And the trick is, you can't leave downtown and meet me out on Johns Island until 4 o'clock, and you got to be at my house by 5. And if you can do it, I'll give you all the bourbon and beer and burgers you want. But the thing is, it's not going to happen because I just looked at the map, and we're after 4 o'clock, we're after 6 o'clock. It's still going to take me 45 minutes to get home. I've got a map right here. These are the studies being done on our roads here in Johns Island, and one of them are passing. And we can even see here on Maybank and on Main, we've got Fs. Maybe it's a D, but maybe the printer was having a bad day. But in light of making Charleston the best city in the country, making Charleston the best version of itself, this is not how it's going to get done. I know 526 didn't pass, and I can maybe speak for the rest of the residents on Johns Island. It's due to a lack of transparency. We don't know exactly where the funds for all these different bills are going, and we're still having these issues. Now, I moved here about 2 years ago, so I'm a part of the problem.
Time.
I get it, but I want to be a part of the solution. So let's have a little more transparency and let's work together. And come on over for dinner.
And those were all the speakers that we had. We did receive some comments from Mr. Bryant, and those were sent to council in full.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're now on to petitions and communications. We have 2 appointments up for the Housing Authority.
So moved.
Motion to take both of them together for approval. Is that the motion? Motion made, properly seconded. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Now we have a presentation by Ms. Amy Barrett, who's the Executive Director of the Charleston Downtown Alliance, regarding the King Street bid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of council. Mike, would you come join me? I have a PowerPoint presentation to show. That's part of your council package, if you'll bear with me. I know it's been a long evening, so thank you for allowing me some time to share with you some of our highlights of where we've been. Okay, all right. Again, we're just going to share the highlights of where we've been and where we're going and helping to keep King Street clean, safe, and vibrant. That is one of the main jobs of our King Street Ambassadors, which is a key program downtown that has helped keep King Street clean, safe, and vibrant. I have with me tonight Mike Cumby, who is the operations manager of our King Street Ambassador program. Happy to answer any questions you have on that. I want to highlight just a couple things about our ambassadors. This is a program that is in addition to baseline city services. So in addition to city services to keep King Street clean, safe, and vibrant, we have this extra group of ambassadors that is paid through the Business Improvement District Revenue Fund. And the reason behind that is because, as it's been mentioned tonight, King Street is the heart and soul of not only our city, but probably our region. And because of that, it gets a lot of extra wear and tear. Lots of extra visitors, lots of college students, a lot of people coming and visiting our cultural attractions. Because of that extra wear and tear, King Street also needs a little extra love. And that is what our King Street ambassadors help us do. A lot of data here on the screen. I want to draw your attention to the left-hand graph that says in 2024, the ambassadors collected 17,000 pounds of litter. That's over 8 tons of litter that would otherwise be on the street. That is not litter that was in a receptacle. This is not empty trash. That's something that the city provides currently. This is picking up debris that did not make it into that receptacle. So a lot of work being done by our King Street ambassadors. But they don't only just keep King Street clean, they also interact with our visitors downtown. They provide directions, they help people figure out our confusing parking meters. They welcome people to downtown and give them directions. They also interact with our businesses on King Street, helping establish a sense of community in our major retail district. I was really encouraged to see in reviewing some of our annual surveys that are out in the field right now that some of our King Street businesses are recognizing our ambassadors by name. People say, John is great, we love Kobe, and that's exactly what we were aiming for with this function of our ambassadors. I'm going to keep going really quickly, but if you guys have specific questions on that, we can certainly have time for that. In the realm of communication and marketing, we are just getting started. We're still a pretty new organization. So we started with a website that is up and running and then ventured into social media with Instagram and Facebook. And our intent there is not to be an influencer or really highlight all the cool things there are to do in King Street. That's sort of a crowded space. There's a lot of tension on social media around King Street. Our market on King Street is local visitors, helping to bring local residents back downtown to Charleston. Our view is Charleston is everyone's neighborhood. And so we want everyone to be aware of things that are happening in and around King Street. We started a series called People of King that features not only business owners, but people who are in and about and walk around downtown. Our council members that represent King Street, Mitchell and Seekings, we'd love to feature you on our People of King Instagram page. We'll set up a time to do that, and you, Mr. Mayor, as well. We also share news and updates, event roundup, and also some local history and education. So this conversation about parking and where our parking resources are, that is definitely something we can help pushing out through our social media page. Again, we're just getting started with this piece of our program, so we are also currently working on an annual survey. If you do not have it, if you have not taken our annual survey, I have some postcards with me today that has a QR code on it. It'll be out in the field until next Monday, the end of March is when we are pulling that out. I'll be coming back to report to you on those key findings there. We're also planning a stakeholder meeting, and it looks like it's going to be the first week in May. I'll be working on those details. That is to invite everybody, property owners, tenants, council members, the public, to come and help us identify what those priorities are in making King Street the best retail district in the country. The King Street profile, I'll get to that in a subsequent slide. The King Street profile will be the subject of our first e-newsletter that will be going out next week to again, focus on not just the people who represent King Street, but residents who are elsewhere in the region who find King Street a big part of their enjoyment of living in the Charleston area. We already talked a little bit. I enjoyed the conversation about King Street being such an important economic driver for the city. We are just wrapping up our analysis and working on the written report that goes along with this study that is a specific economic impact study that looks at the tax revenue that is generated on King Street. So this does not necessarily include multipliers and employments and all that good stuff that we know that King Street does for the district, but actually looks at tax revenue. And we'll be able to share some additional information with you in the coming weeks on that. But this headline is that King Street bid, and that is just between Line Street down to Broad Street, the properties that touch King Street. It is a $2 billion asset. That 1.7 mile stretch of land that is about 68 acres in total represents $2 billion in real estate assets and $100 million in tax revenue every single year. So we already recognize that King Street is a big part of our economic driver here in Charleston. This is just putting a finer point on it. The King Street profile for the first quarter of 2025 is looking great. I apologize for the small numbers on these pie charts, but the overall occupancy rate on King Street between Line to Broad is 93% occupied. And that is an enviable number compared to our other downtown districts across the country. The national average is somewhere between 83 or 85% occupancy. We are well north of 90, which is good news. The other thing that I wanted to share with you on this page is that not only is occupancy up, but businesses turn over constantly. So we have lost some businesses on King Street, but we gained almost 50 businesses in the calendar year last year in King Street, which also recommends itself and is a testament to how robust King Street is as a retail district. So a lot of good things happening there. But noting also that all this good news is also a double-edged sword. We want to make sure that we have room on King Street for local mom and pop businesses too. So we'll be paying attention to that and working on that too with our partners here in the city and also some of the new private developers that are coming online, particularly in Upper King Street. As part of our memorandum of understanding with the city, we are not part of the city, but we are, the city is our primary partner in the work that we do. So our memorandum of understanding specifies that our budget be spent on those 6 items there down the left-hand column of the page. Again, apologize for the small font size, but that picture is of what our actual budget was, what we spent in 2024, and it was in line with those buckets specified in the MOU, particularly the King Street ambassadors. Even though we added additional services about mid-year last year, we added a night service on Thursdays through Sunday evenings to help with our entertainment district in Upper King Street. So that added a little bit more to our budget last year. A budget check for where we are this year, again, is a calendar year, so we're just now going through our February receipts, but we are on track to be on budget and on time this year. And happy to come back at some point and report to you where we landed. This was a budget that we shared with you back in June or July last year too, so this isn't the first time you've seen that. Finally, this is a work plan that we follow. Again, on the top line there, you'll see those 6 budgets that are represented in the memorandum of understanding with the city to make sure that not only our budget is on track, but the work that we're doing is also in line with what was specified at the creation of this organization. A lot of detail in this chart here, but I'll share with you one detail that I'm excited about, and it falls under the marketing and communication metric. We just put together, with help of our colleagues in the Economic and Neighborhood Services Department, a new business welcome package. And that is a small thing, but it goes a long way to building community in our retail district and welcoming our new businesses here. It was really delightful to be able to take this very small folder, but with a list of contact information, who do you call, how do you get to know people in the district, to take them to the new Kohler store, which is a beautiful showroom up on King Street. It is the only retail storefront they have on the entire East Coast in the United States, one of only 4 they have in the country. Just another factor in how prominent and important this retail district is. And then as we're charting a course for priorities in 2025 and beyond, again, keeping with our mission to keep King Street clean, safe, and vibrant. The number one thing I hear from our store owners when I go out and Mike goes out is really, we appreciate the foot traffic on King Street, but we do worry that it is such a narrow place, that there is traffic, there's a lot happening on King Street. So we are excited to work with the city in making King Street increasingly safe for pedestrians. As Councilmember Seekings always says, on any given day, we have 2,700 cars, 125 bikes, and 32,000 pedestrians on King Street. So we really need to make sure that this beautiful retail street continues to feel safe and vibrant. I'm going to stop there because I know it's been sort of a long evening, but happy to take any questions you have. And again, Mike Cumby here can answer some questions about the ambassador program.
Just, if I might really, very briefly, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members, y'all will remember that the bid is the creation of this council. As a matter of state law, we created the bid to give them the opportunity to succeed. And I just want to say, as a member of the board, thanks to you all putting me there, getting to work with Amy and the ambassadors out there, it has been a success. Got off to a slow start. I think we can all admit that, but it's been a huge success. The business owners are happy. King Street is markedly cleaner.
Thank you.
You see the ambassadors out there, they're wearing their bright
They're very
colors.
brightly
So I feel confident when this comes back up for renewal, you're going to hear even more successes, and this will be a continued effort on King Street by the people who bought in. I mean, they're paying 4% in addition in taxes to have this in place, and we got the right team at the right place, and I thank you for your hard work, and it's working for sure. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Seekings. Yes.
Councilman Appel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that presentation. Thanks for all the hard work y'all are doing on King Street. Is Clemson Orange like a final
No.
decision, or is there still some time to workshop that? I just asking for a friend.
It's like,
This is our third iteration. We're not doing it anymore.
so no.
I love it. I love it.
Team affiliation implied, really. So just easy to see. Thank you. Very visible.
All I see is
visibility.
Clemson.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for that. I got two items on petitions and communications. One, I wanted to just give you all an update regarding the negotiations and discussions revolving around 993 and 995 Morrison Drive and the potential for the city of Charleston to purchase that from the county. We had a good conversation during the community development meeting. I proposed some general terms that are part of your packet tonight to go back to the county with. They are expecting our response and wanted to just make sure you all were aware of it. And also, if you are willing to support it, so would like to entertain a motion, if I may, for approval to go back to the county with those general terms, with the one addition that I think is important, and that is that during the due diligence period, if under contract, and certainly obviously post-closing, that the city would be able to lease the property for $1 to be used as parking, because that is something in the interim that we would like to use, potentially re-engaging the hop shuttle and for workers, particularly downtown, to be able to use, and it's just a vacant lot sitting up there now. So that would be the one addition to what was discussed in community development that I'd like to add to the proposal. All right, so with the amended, we have a motion properly made and seconded. All those in favor or comment, Councilman Gregory?
Mayor, we did approve it and, except for the addition, we did approve it in community development. Just wanted to make.
Councilman Mitchell?
I think even when we approve it, I think was something
There was no.
not notice or something that city attorney had to come back with. We have to figure that out. We have to speak.
So we have a motion made for full council to approve the general terms as outlined with the addition for the parking, properly made and seconded. All those in favor?
Just one.
Aye.
Councilman, I'm supporting it, but as I read it, I'd like to pose the same question that I posed during our our committee meeting, okay? The way it's currently outlined, we're now talking about 50% of the site that's going to be for affordable housing.
Right.
Am I correct? And I think we also talked about making sure that when we define affordable housing, we use the federal definition of affordable housing. I think that's, and even more importantly, okay, what will the remaining 50% of the site have?
So just for clarity, this is what we would commit to the county as a minimum. We can add definitions, we can make it 100% affordable housing. This is what they wanted assurances, so this is kind of the minimum that we would be putting in.
Gotcha.
So that's just want to make that point of clarification there, that we have discretion over ultimately what goes there, what rates there are, what percentage here, what percentage there, et cetera. So
That's why site control is important.
right. So we have a motion made, properly seconded, as briefly amended. We have Councilman Bowden, I believe, did he have his hand up? No, he doesn't. Okay, so we've made a motion, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. Also, great news, guys. Long overdue. I know you all have been waiting patiently for this, but I am going to be giving the State of the City address.
Oh, I don't believe.
Not tonight, but at the next council meeting. So anyway, just wanted to make you all aware. It will be brief. Okay, now we're on to committee reports. Councilman Gregg for Ways and Means. What? Okay, move for approval, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes had it. We now up for, bills up for second reading. We have 12 items up. Staff has requested that M9 be deferred. So can I have a motion
To take them all together?
to take all of them together with the exception of M9?
Yes.
So to take them all together for approval,
Yeah.
with the exception of M9, made, properly seconded, all those in favor?
And that, just for the record, so those are items M1 through M8 and M10 through M13,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Motion made, properly seconded, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Bills. Where am I? Oh, yeah, that's, yeah, that, I always forget that part, right, yeah. Now we're on, we have no bills up for first reading. We have, the next council meeting will be held on April the 8th.
Yeah.
We do?
We got to vote on the third.
Okay, I have a motion made for third reading, properly seconded. All those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Okay. Give me a minute.
Thank the Lord.
While we're waiting for you to sign those, Jim, just let us know when Hunter wants us over for steak
Yeah.
dinner. I'll try that challenge.
Speed sign.
How did y'all meeting go? How did the meeting go? Wait.
Well done.
As he said that, he regretted it. I think.
Yeah, sure, I don't think it is either. Damn people they're
All right, again, the next meeting will be on April 8th. If there's no further business for this council, meeting is adjourned.